Welcome back. Well, I have Marcy Scheinwald here, as well as Rebecca Gilad, and they're here on behalf of the Laguna Woods Foundation and Community Bridge Builders. So welcome both of you. Nice to see you. How are you?
Terrific. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Good. And you know, we haven't talked to you about the foundation of Laguna Woods in a while. So if you could do me a favor, just give me a brief overview of what they do.
All right. Basically, we're the safety net in the village. If there's a resident who's facing financial problems, difficulty out of the blue, maybe it's a hospital bill, a drug bill, a caregiver bill, we step in and we provide temporary financial assistance.
Right.
We work very closely with social services in that regard. And the important thing for residents who do need help is it's completely confidential.
Right.
The foundation never knows who gets our help, and social services is the entry point.
Right.
During the pandemic, though, we learned some things that we didn't know before. When the pandemic first hit, we were concerned about access to food. There were people, because we're older residents, were fearful to go out of their house because of the threat of COVID-19, which was very real for older Americans.
Yes.
And we distributed, I think, over $30,000 in grocery cards, and we had a telephone-based shopping service for residents who didn't have internet. As the pandemic progressed, though, the needs in the village have changed. And working with social services, who's our partner, we learned that there's increasing anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
What they say stemming from the fear during the pandemic and the social isolation.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, we branched out a little bit. It doesn't change our basic mission, but it's a way to enhance what we do in the village.
Right.
We're funding a special training program for the social workers in the village with Stanford University, the Optimal Aging Project, to provide our social workers here with training in cognitive behavior therapy, better able to deal with depression and anxiety.
Okay.
But that depression and anxiety sometimes manifests itself as, the only way I can describe it is inappropriate behavior directed or targeted to particular groups in our community.
Okay.
It's in some instances been anti-Asian, in some instances anti-Semitic, and in others simply anti-immigrant. And so we decided to help community bridge builders get off the ground, a group designed or whose mission is to see if they can get people talking about these issues so we can mitigate them. And perhaps better able to discuss the mission of Community Bridge Builders is Rebecca Gilad.
Yeah, and we had talked to you one time before about this. So the premise is you're trying to combat some of the hate messaging and the hate behavior that's happening to any particular type of group. Why did you start the organization? Or it is a larger organization, but you were trying to start a chapter here. Is that correct?
No, we're starting an organization from its roots.
Okay.
Because we were trying to find an organization from which we would become a chapter or a mini copy, but there wasn't anything targeted for seniors. People assume that at certain age, you're very nice to everybody.
We know that's not the case.
Exactly. So when we saw what is happening, that maybe all of us have biases, but most of the times we contain what we feel, we don't think about how we feel. And since the pandemic, it seems that everybody feels that it's okay to say whatever. And we started to get telephone calls and text messages asking, what do? I just heard this terrible joke and I didn't know how to stop it. or I heard this horrible thing and I didn't know what to say.
Okay.
So keeping silent really means you're agreeing or that you're letting it go. So we decided to create this organization, and one of the 5 major things that we're doing is a training.
Right, okay.
What do you do when you hear something like that? You can be either the recipient of something that is an attack,
Right.
or you can be a bystander, or you can be the aggressor.
Yeah.
So there are things that you can do to educate the other person. We don't want to create a fight, because with a fight you don't get anything back.
Right,
But
right.
to educate, to ask a question, and that's a very nice way to start. Why are you saying it?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like that?
Right.
And start a dialogue so that people can understand that you can have good intentions, and you should always assume that the person has good intentions, but that they don't understand the impact.
Right, right.
So that's what we're starting to train the people. It's a free training.
Yeah, let's take a look at that information. So you do have a free training that's coming up, and it's being put on primarily, both of you, or actually it's an organization. It's the Jewish, tell me what it's about now, the Foundation Council?
It's the National Council of Jewish Women is the official sponsor, but there is a Jewish President's Council of the different Jewish organizations in the village. And they're having this meeting next Friday on November 11th in Clubhouse 5 at 10 o'clock.
Right.
And it's to introduce the concept of community bridge builders.
Okay.
Why do we need an organization like that? And how can people participate? One of the things that I personally have heard, witnessed, is some people don't want to confront prejudice and discrimination. They're afraid that if they call attention to it, it will only make it worse.
Right.
But I think one of the things we're learning, certainly in the media lately, is you can't ignore it.
Right.
And you have to confront it.
Right.
And Rebecca is going to be talking about the training program itself, and we're going to actually show one of the videos from the training program.
Okay.
And we even have somebody who will be talking about evaluation. And because I don't think anybody should sit back and just listen, is what each organization can do, both individually and together.
And Rebecca, one thing I wanted to talk about is you're trying to make this a club. So there is a need for you to have a particular amount of members.
Yeah.
So are you approaching that point
Yes.
at this time?
That's very important. We are already a group of 23 people
All right.
that represent many different clubs.
Okay.
And what we're doing is going to each other's meetings, festivities, festivals, both inside Laguna Woods and outside. Like last week we were invited to visit a mosque.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow we're participating in the Korean festivity.
Oh, good. So it's across the board.
Exactly.
And that's important. Let's show the information one more time as to how they can get in touch with you. So it's November 11th, Clubhouse 5 at 10 a.m. And of course, they can get in touch with lwcommunitybridgebuilders@gmail.com or call that number that's on the screen, and they could find out more about the event that's happening. Now, I think this is a great idea. Certainly wonderful that you are supporting this, and good luck to you, Rebecca. I think it's a great idea. And one important thing you said is that you need to have a dialogue about it, and you need to say, hey, I don't like it, but if somebody else says, well, I do like it, you need to have that conversation.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
I think that's very important.
Yes.
Thank you both so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
very much
you.
for having us.
All right.
As always.
Yes.
And if you need more information regarding the event on the 11th, you can always get in touch with by the information that's on the screen, the email, as well as the phone number. We'll be right back after this.